Hi, welcome to episode 9. It's safe to say that part of our connection with football comes from watching irreverent skills, great passes and fantastic goals. Despite the evolution in the training processes and methodologies, as kids are spending less time on the streets playing, many people worry that we are creating more predictable players due to that reduced time of activity. That alone should sound the alarms, because developing the player's initiative is the first step towards achieving an individual and collective advantage over the opponent. To develop creative and unpredictable players, stay with us as we share with you ideas that will lead the players into finding unique solutions to common problems in the match. Since football is an open-ended game with two complex structures playing against each other, it's invaluable to have players who can analyze, predict, and adapt to the mutating contexts of the game with effective solutions that can surprise the opponent. For example, if coaches are playing against a team that is defending in a low block, as much as they try to overload certain areas to create numerical advantages, it's still helpful to have a player who can dribble past two defenders or play that killer pass that no one is expecting. Having said that, I find it extremely satisfying when the player comes up with a solution that is neither obvious nor anticipated. It just proves that the player is able to think with his own head and find solutions to the ever-changing contexts of the game. Moving on to the first pitfall of the episode, many coaches get too caught up in the idea that players first need to learn the basics before moving on to something more advanced and setting them free. This leads to pass and control exercises and analytical movements and other activities that do not represent the most effective use of the little time that they have available to work. If coaches are looking to develop a player's creativity, there are certainly ways to develop the player's initiative and technical ability through fun game-related exercises. With this approach, the players face a continuous stream of problems that require out-of-the-box thinking to fool the opponents. What's best? The players are developing these capabilities by themselves, leading to a more sustainable development. Let's go to the pitch to show you how it works. With an exercise like this 1v1, players have to slalom through the cones before going for goal. This means that they will need to develop not only tricks, but also speed, stamina, brakes, and accelerations to get enough space to go through the slalom without being tackled by the defender. Alternatively, taking a normal finishing game and assigning more points to special goals from rabona or bicycle kick is another way of letting the players try and discover new ways of scoring goals. Another aspect that is getting in the way of creativity is risk-averse coaches. No back pass, no square pass, no dribbling in defense. The fear of lost balls is taking away from the players the freedom and liberty to try different approaches. The reason I struggle with preconceptions is that sometimes, or most of the times, they don't take context into account. For example, how many times has a coach condemned a player for trying out a rabona pass instead of a pass with the weaker foot? The thing is that sometimes that technical gesture is just faster and more comfortable for the player. As context plays a big part in many aspects of the game, it's important that in the training session, the players are offered a variety of options so that they can, by their own experience, make better choices. Having players that are comfortable with the ball and that have been exposed to brain-teasing contexts time and time again in training automatically reduces the risk of that dreaded back pass. For example, if the player decides to do a back pass, that happens because by the time the player decided to make that back pass, he already scanned all the other options in his head and still decided to go with it because he felt it was the best option. And that is where creativity meets decision making. Let's go to the pitch to show you how coaches can incentivize this kind of individual growth. In this variation from the first exercise that we showed you, players can only score in the big goal with a first touch shot. If they control the ball, they must score in the mini goals. What we are doing here is giving the players different options to choose from. To shoot first time, they will need to adjust their body, try an overhead kick, or lay it for a colleague. If they're going for the mini goal, they are forced to trick the other team to find space and score. It becomes unpredictable and stimulates creativity. Furthermore, at youth level, the generalized focus on match results leads coaches to take decisions based on short-term gains. Tactical sessions with a lot of breaks, imposing ideas instead of suggesting, are ways to show the players what they should do instead of why they are doing it. In the short term, it wins them games while the strength and the technical ability of the players is still a differentiator. But in the long run, when the players grow up and the skill gap reduces, it ceases to be an advantage. Simply put, neglecting the process is not sustainable. For that reason, coaches should have an approach to training based on what will benefit their players in the long term. Switch to tactical circulations with more playing time. Care about laterality and developing different types of strength, stamina, and speed associated with shooting and dribbling. Instead of worrying too much about the 4-3-3 and the 4-4-2, care about teaching them the game principles. Let me show you what I mean with this. To show you how a team can be organized considering the game principles, let's say the ball is here in the middle. The first specific principle is to press the ball. The second is defensive cover. In this case, we need to protect both the right side and the left side, making a triangle. Thirdly, balance to support the teammates and ensure defensive stability. Finally, compactness ensures that the team is reducing spaces. By adding a second defensive line that obeys to the same principles, players organize themselves in a formation without having to be told to play in a 4-4-2. All in all, provide resources to the players that allow them to reach the highest level possible considering their potential. That is not done by having 3 championships in his resume. That is done by developing competencies. Once again, let's head to the pitch. With this exercise, coaches can stimulate the technical ability of the player and create the habit of reacting after losing the ball. From a macro perspective, it's not telling the players what they must do to beat the next opponent tactically. However, the coach is developing competencies that will help the player in the long run. If coaches go even further as to switch sides to practice laterality, they are helping the player become comfortable under any technical context. In the future, this trait might be the difference between being selected to a better team or not. Moving on to this episode's Q&A, I got a question asking if it's ever too late to teach creativity to a player. Well, my answer to this is that as time passes, it's a different kind of creativity that you're teaching. For example, if you consider a kid, then it's easier for him to develop skills because he's still in the golden age of learning. However, if you think about older players, then the kind of creativity that you will be teaching them and that they will learn is making that pass to that space that no one identified or was expecting. It's having the freedom and the ability to adjust to the collective context to create overloads in spaces or balance the team. So all in all, I would say that it's never too late to teach creativity, it's just the type of creativity that changes. The second question in the Q&A asked what I thought about creativity in the first third of the pitch. Well, in a game where our team is constantly trying to move the opponent to find spaces to attack, I think that creativity is very important in that stage, but should be done responsibly. The catch is that doing a dribble or a skill is responsible if the player is feeling comfortable or used to doing that. Much of the anxiety that is felt in the stands in those plays near our box is felt because the people don't know what the players train every day. For a player that is used to playing under pressure, doing a skill or performing a movement that may seem odd to the audience is probably just a comfortable way that he has to further the team's chances of scoring a goal. Now, as we stated in episode 1, it's very important that coaches have a very clear idea of the behaviors that they want their team to have in the different moments of the game. Whether it is that they want their team to press high or low, play out the back or kick it long, or react quickly or organize in defense after they lose the ball. For that reason, in the next episode, which happens to be the season finale, we will go through the main challenges that up-and-coming coaches face on how to build a game model. Until then, in case you wish to continue your development as a coach, you can find daily content across all the social media channels linked in the description. If you're into discussing training topics, then you can join our WhatsApp group or follow us on Reddit under the name Freecoachtalks. Once again, thank you for watching.